Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayane Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayiniim Ambatvamanusandathami Bhagavat Gite Bhavadveshiniim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramaupanisadai Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yan Yoginaha Yasyantanna Vidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. TasmatYudhyasvaBharat. He Bharata, he Arjuna, Tasmat, therefore, Yudhyasva, you take up to the fighting the battle, you should fight this battle. I said yesterday, this is not a command, although the grammar is Yudhyasva, may you please fight. So literally it means commanding, enjoining. But we said yesterday that nobody can command anybody else. Even Ishvara cannot command us, the human beings, because we have a free will. In any situation we always do what we choose to do. We always exercise the choice. That may not be very clear to us. I mean, it may happen so quickly, habitually, that we may not make a note of the fact that you exercised a choice. It may just happen habitually. Some choices are made so often that it just becomes habitual. But still, the choice is involved. You make a choice, Arjuna. You recognize that fighting this battle is in your best interest. It is for your good. What is that is not good for Arjuna? As Bhashyakara pointed out, shoka and moha. Arjuna is as though immersed in the ocean of shoka and moha, and that is the condition of every human being. It is true that everybody does not feel that I am grieving, that I don't have the right understanding. People don't feel that way. We are not conscious that we are grieving. There is a grief, sorrow. Deep within me, I may not be conscious about that. But it is there as in the very root of everything that I do. Because there is disappointment in life, frustration in life. Even a person who feels he is very successful, and the world calls him successful also. But perhaps in the heart of his heart, he does not think he is successful. The world has certain criteria of determining what success is. And by those criteria, like wealth, power, fame, etc., he is declared as successful, regarded as successful. And he also perhaps believes that because of the intoxication of these accomplishments, when he comes to his right mind, he realizes that's not what he is seeking, something else. What a human being is seeking is self-satisfaction. Satisfaction with one's own self. Acceptance of one's own self. Comfort with one's own self. Because that is where the basic conflict is going on. I'm in constant conflict with myself, with the self that I find myself to be, the self that I like to be. More often than not, I find that I am not really what I like to be. Thus, whenever I find that I am not able to measure up to my own expectation of myself, it is true that my expectation of myself is that I should be a successful person. Success is another name for moksha, freedom, liberation, happiness. But that happens, that feeling of success happens when I see myself completely or acceptable to myself. The extent to which I find myself acceptable to myself, to that extent, I judge myself as successful. As Puja Swamiji says, the self-judgment is unique to human being. Judgment. Because we are gifted with an intellect of which it is a nature to judge. Our intellect judges whatever it is that it comes in contact with. Whatever I come in contact with, whether it's a person, a situation, a thing, sentient, insentient, whatever it is that I come in contact with, my first response is to judge that. But I'm a self-conscious being. And therefore, the first entity I come in contact with is my own self. That is called self-consciousness. And since it is the nature of my intellect, or habit of the intellect to judge, the first judgment that I make is about myself. And that judgment will be of this nature, whether I'm all right or not. When do I say I'm all right? When I'm able to live up to my expectation of myself. I constantly have an expectation of myself. What is the basic expectation I have of myself? That I should be successful is an expectation. And to begin with, I judge myself the way world judges me. When world says I'm successful, I also call myself successful. But ultimately, I have my own criteria of what a successful self is. And my expectation of myself are very simple. I want to see myself as one who is natural. As we said, and as Upanishad declares, Tattvamasi, I am Tat, I am Brahma, I am limitless, I am whole, I am complete. And we have said that I don't have to become complete. I am complete. I have to recognize, see myself as complete. So this constant craving of seeing myself as a complete being. Who is a complete being? A simple, kind, beautiful person. It's a very simple expectation I have of myself. I just want to see myself as a simple, kind, loving, beautiful person. Because that is the true nature of myself. By nature, I am a simple person. My mind has become very complex. Something else inside, something else outside. All of this has happened in course of time because of this ignorance. Because of the false perception of myself. Because of my insecurity. The fear, insecurity that I constantly entertain about myself. The need I see constantly to protect myself. Because of my wrong perception of myself, that I am a small, limited being. When there is smallness, limitedness, there is insecurity, there is fear. So usually I function on the basis of fear. Always I see the need to protect myself from the attack. And therefore, there is a defense mechanism I have developed which may involve telling lies, cheating, fabricating, all kinds of things. All this compromise of values has happened as a necessity. I think it's necessary to protect myself, and I can do that only when I get angry, not otherwise. Only when I hide myself and not expose myself, then only I can protect myself. Therefore, hiding myself, my anger keeping the world away from me, etc., etc. So, kama, krodha, lobha, this anger, greed, jealousies, hatred, I see them as defense mechanisms. I see them as necessary. All this is ignorance. And therefore, all this stuff is there in my mind. Where Lord Krishna says, Asuri Sampat, the demoniac wealth, tendencies I have. Daivi tendencies also I have, the divine tendencies I have of love and kindness and charity and generosity. At the same time, there is narrow-mindedness, greed, hatred. These mutually contradictory tendencies survive in the same mind. And there is a constant conflict between the two. Sometimes the asura, the demons, win. Generally they win. There are times when the devatas, the divine forces also win. When the divine tendencies win in a given situation, in every situation, these two opposite forces always come into play. And one of them will assert itself. When the divine tendencies win, that is, I function on the basis of love, or kindness, or charity, is Devi Sampat, divine tendencies. Is my true nature. Upanishad says, Amrutasya putraha. The progeny of immortality, Amrita, immortality, ambrosia. That's my true nature. Whenever I act as prompted by them, I'm so comfortable with myself. I am comfortable with myself when I'm kind, when I'm loving, when I'm charitable. And that can also be explained simply. That is what I expect other people also to be. That's how I expect others to treat me. That is when I'm comfortable with others, when they are kind, charitable, loving to me. That's where my basic love is. More often than not, these divine tendencies are not able to assert themselves, not strong enough. Because of fear and insecurity. So fears and insecurity generally win and compel me to tell a lie, to cheat, to hide, whatever. Thus, more often than not, the demoniac tendencies win. It may look like a victory in a given situation, but inside I feel miserable because I see myself a insecure person, a cheating person, a narrow-minded person, a self-centered person. I don't like myself. Even though in a given situation I appear to have solved that situation and protected myself by this defense mechanism of lying and cheating, etc., or asserting, anger, dominating. Inside I don't feel good. More of these demoniac tendencies, more miserable I feel. So as long as ignorance is there, so long the demoniac tendencies are there. And depending upon the strength of ignorance, they score a victory. So more often than not, when I find myself an angry person, that is called politics, manipulating. I manipulate other people by taking advantage of their weakness or advantage of their nature, etc. All of these I do. But I don't like myself. So even though in the vyavahara or day-to-day transactions, I am a successful person because I can manipulate, I can dominate, I can control, I can assert, I can threaten, or I can escape, whatever. I do not like myself an asserting person, a threatening person, a cheating person. I don't like, I hate myself. I'm a helpless person. I don't know how to live life. I think the only way I can live life and interact with the world and protect myself is by being an angry, asserting person, a hateful person, etc. And then I hate that self. Thus a constant conflict with myself is going on. There are moments when there is a relief, when I'm able to assert my truthfulness, honesty, goodness. There are moments when I'm truly happy with myself. But I cannot be happy with myself as long as there is a dominance of these demoniac tendencies, rajas and tamas. Therefore, a human being in whose mind there is predominance of rajas and tamas is always in conflict with the self. An unhappy person, a miserable person. He tries to solve situations by using the same tendencies and then fails again and again. A lot of frustration, disappointment in life in this sense. So Arjuna's sadness, this deep-rooted sadness, what we do is we avoid facing the self. We avoid facing the sad, miserable self. And we keep on distracting our mind with activities. Therefore, most of activities are self-escape, escaping from my own self. I keep my mind engaged in some activity or the other so that I don't have to face this self. That's what everybody does. That's what Arjuna also did. He kept himself engaged in one activity after the other, one battle after the other, one tapasya after the other, acquiring one weapon after the other. A very successful person by the standard of the world. An accomplished person, successful person, highly regarded person. Arjuna represents a successful person that we call in the world successful. How can a successful person be miserable? Because success is only superficial. I like to believe I'm successful and I go on with my life. But there is a time when that sadness asserts itself. I cannot escape. Arjuna said to Lord Krishna, Nacha shreyo nupashyami hatva svajanamahave. O Lord, killing my near and dear ones in the battlefield, I do not see any good coming out. Justification of avoiding the situation. Justification of not facing one's own self, situation one's own self. Like everybody else. Arjuna, not that he wants to escape battlefield. Not that he wants to escape battle. Not that he is afraid. That's not the point. Then it would be Arjuna's problem. Arjuna wants to escape himself. Like every human being. And so far he was successful in doing that. By engaging himself in the activities that he liked. But here is an activity that he hates. Now you would say, I will not fight this battle. Tat kim karmani ghore mam niyo jayasi Keshava. Hey Keshava, O Lord, why do you impel me into this ghora karma, a horrible activity, this action involving violence, killing? Why do you engage me into this? In whichever way possible, he wanted to prove to himself that this action is worth escaping, is not right action, it is violence. It is against my value of non-violence. A distorted view of what non-violence is. What is violence, what is non-violence is not the name of an action. Killing is not necessarily violence. Hurting is not necessarily violence. Because surgeon performs major surgery in the body and very violent action. A lot of blood is lost. The surgeon may even amputate one limb, which is a violent thing. But that is to protect the whole body. From the standpoint of a limb, looks like a violent action. That's called vyashti. From individual standpoint, looks like a violent action. But samashti, from a holistic standpoint of the body, it is for protecting the body, for health of the body. Then it is a non-violent action. Arjuna, right now, his mind accepted the vyashti, the individual standpoint. Not samashti, not holistic standpoint. And justified ghore karmani. This is a action karma involving violence, injury, death. And violence is violence. Death is violence. Nobody will say it's not violence. So many people believe that Bhagavad Gita teaches violence. Lord Krishna is teaching violence to Arjuna. But I said, what is violence from one standpoint can be seen as non-violence from another standpoint. So by declaring, I do not want to fight, Arjuna wants to escape. Lord Krishna did not oblige him. He just kept on listening. Arjuna kept on talking and talking and talking, exhausted himself. Nothing more to say. Prahasanniva Bharata. Lord Krishna started talking like mocking him. Prahasa. Making fun of him. What are you talking? Ashochan anvashocastvam prajnavadamsya bhashase. On one hand, you are grieving. On the other hand, you are talking the words of wise people. Because Arjuna is quoting scriptures. Adharma bhivavat Krishna pradushyanti kulastriyah strishu dushtashu varshneya jayate varna sankara sankaro narakaeva kulagnanam kulasya etc. Prajnavadam shabhasase. You are talking in a very like a learned person, like a wise person. There is no harmony between your words and your behavior. So wise people never suffer from grief. You are wise as far as your words are concerned, but not as far as your heart is concerned. Why, Lord, what is wrong with what I said? Nothing wrong with what you said. Something wrong with what you feel. Gatasu na gatasumsya nanu shochandi panditaha. Panditaha nanu shochanti. Panditaha, the learned, the wise people, never grieve. Although grammatically it says they do not grieve. Nobody grieves. Grieving is not a deliberate thing. I don't grieve. Grief happens. But Swami used to say, we advise them, don't get angry. That advice would have been effective. This personal freedom not to get angry. He does not get angry. Anger gets him. I do not grieve. Grief takes over me. Meaning that as long as I am ignorant, I have no choice but to grieve. Arjuna, you are grieving? Anvashochastvam. That is the mark of ignorance. So right away Lord Krishna pointed out the very basic problem that Arjuna had. So this is the situation of every human being. One wants to be happy, not recognizing what happiness is. Happiness is generally associated with situations, with pleasurable objects, with pleasurable people, with pleasurable events. We associate happiness with them and try to create them. That's how we spend our life, in creating pleasurable objects, pleasurable people, pleasurable events. I'm going to create happiness. It's not to be created. Happiness is already there as my own nature. How can I create something which is already there? So I may have a notion that yes, I've created happiness when I create favorable objects and people and situations. And I may momentarily believe that I'm happy. Moment I'm free from intoxication, I realize what I am. Happiness is not to be created. It's to be discovered, manifested by removing obstacle. What's the obstacle? Shoka and moha. Like everybody else, Arjuna wants to be successful in true sense. He wants to be happy. Requirement is very simple. Everybody just wants to be happy. And we cannot fault anybody for that because it is natural. Except that we are trying to create happiness, to recognize happiness as a nature by removing the obstacles to happiness. Shoka and moha, grief and delusion or aviveka. Grief is born of aviveka and aviveka is born of grief. That's why shoka moha. Shoka is created from moha. Fundamental moha of Atma and Atma aviveka. And shoka creates moha in terms of the wrong perception of the situation. These are the obstacles. This is what we remove. You said yesterday, shoka and moha, they create a tendency, as Bhashyakara says, to give up one's own dharma, one's own duty, and create the tendency to do something which is not my duty, not my dharma, which is not in keeping with my nature. Dharma or duty can simply be understood as an action in keeping in with my nature. Arjuna is a Kshatriya. And everybody is born with a nature. Shauryam, Tejo, Dhrutirdakshyam, Yuddhe, Chapipalayanam, Dhanam, Ishvara Bhavasya, Kshatram, Karma Svabhavajam. Lord Krishna says, what is the nature of a Kshatriya? Shauryam, courage. Tejaha, Dhrutihi, Daksham. Courage. And then dominance, overpowering, attacking where necessary, not being controlled by others. Dhrutihi, dhairya, fortitude. Daksham, the skill. Yuddhe, chapya, palayanam, not turning his back in the battle. Dhanam, generosity, charity. Ishvara bhavasya, always being in control like a king. That's how Arjuna is. Right now, karpanya dosha, his nature is overpowered by all the other factors. So it doesn't appear like a kshatriya. That's who he is. So he wants to perform an action which seems to be in line with how he feels right now. Because tamas, he feels completely disappointed, dejected, incapable of fighting, incapable of asserting himself. And therefore the path of escaping from this, retiring, a quiet place, free from all challenges, become a sannyasi. No challenge. Escaping all the challenges of life. A sannyasi. Grihastha is to live the life and accept the challenges. These challenges are too much for Arjuna right now in his state of mind. So therefore, he is dreaming of a situation where it is free from all challenges. And that is the life of a sannyasi, renunciate. So in the state of mind which Arjuna is, the renunciation seems very attractive, very tempting. That's a sign of shoka and moha. Giving up one's own duty and taking up duty of something else is not in keeping with one's nature. So it's not going to work. Yadahankar mashritya nayotseti manyase mitthesha vyavasayaste prakriti swam niyokshati. Because of pride or arrogance, Arjuna, you think that you know better, so you will not fight this battle. That vyavasaya, that conviction is not going to last. Prakriti swam niyokshati. Right now, because of tamas, you think that that's what you will do. But your prakriti ultimately you assert. Swabhavayena kauntya nibaddhasvena karmana. Your swabhava will assert one day. Kartum nyetsasyan mohat karishasya vashopitata. What right now, because of moha, you do not want to do, you'll be forced to do. Your nature will assert. So, naturally, that's a wrong choice for Arjuna. What Swami used to say, in a given situation, a person has a choice between what he likes to do and what is right to do. What is the right thing to do and what he likes to do. The heart of the heart, Arjuna knows what is the right thing to do. Right now, what he likes to do is to escape and into a situation, comfortable situation. Avoid this challenge of ghora karma and retire into a situation free from all challenges. Swadharma and Paradharma, Puja Swamiji would translate it as what is right to do, that is Swadharma, my dharma, my duty. What I like to do is Paradharma, what is not right for me. Now there may be a situation where what is right for me also is what I like to do, then it is good for you. When that happens, I have become totally mature person. Or whenever. What is right is what I what I like is what is right, then I am a mature person at that time. And that is called emotional maturity. I have to constantly work on myself. My mind want to take the easy way out and do what it likes to escape the challenges and conflicts. Karmanyevadikaraste nayatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo hya karmanah, Lord Krishna says. Niyatam kuru karmatvam. Tvam karma kuru. You perform the action niyatam. That is determined for you, meant for you. What I mean is, that everybody comes to this world with an assignment. He comes to the world with a certain nature, with certain abilities, certain talents. Everybody. Everybody is not an Einstein, that's all right. But everybody has intelligence. Everybody has Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti. The power to know, the power to will, the power to act, everybody has in one measure or the other. I don't want to become somebody else. Our problem is that we are constantly trying to become someone else. I am jealous of someone else. I think that person is happy and successful. I want to be like that person. So constantly I compel myself to be different from what I am. Constantly I try to be someone else. Because of which the gift that I have with me, they remain unattended. And I keep on trying to do something which is not in keeping with my nature and struggle. I don't have to become someone else. In this life, I should be what I am. Lord Krishna would say, nobody is superior, nobody is inferior. That's what Vedanta says. Sayaschayam purushe yascha savaditya sa ekaha. The consciousness, the self that is in this individual, in Devadatta, and the consciousness that is in Sun, in the totality in Ishvara is the same. Therefore, from the standpoint of name and form, upadhi, the body, mind, sense complex, everybody is different. And certainly there is taratamya, superiority, inferior difference as far as the personality is concerned, as far as the upadhi is concerned, as far as the costume is concerned, as far as the body, mind, sense complex is concerned. Even has a unique kind of thing, is different. In everyone that is different. So between you and I, there is something that is different, no doubt about that. There are differences, we accept. But in spite of those apparent differences, sayaschayam purushe yaschava savaditye saikaha. What is this insignificant individual and the total, the grand, great totality, the Ishvara? The essence is the same. And the life is meant to bring to manifestation that essence. Upadhi is given to us with its own nature, its own inherent abilities and limitations. Not to make a mark with that, to make a mark by using this upadhi to bring to manifestation that inherent wholeness, completeness, which is my nature. Unfortunately, the world always looks upon the accomplishments of upadhi as the accomplishments of the self. And they are valued. And we also go along with that. And I always force myself, compel myself to live up to the expectations of the world. The expectations are all centered upon this upadhi. constant struggle. This is not what the life is meant for. Life is meant for bringing to manifestation the inherent wholeness, completeness, which is my nature. I cannot become whole and complete at the level of body, can never. However great bodybuilder I am, the heavyweight champion, boxing champion, lifting champion, with 500 kilograms, but not 501 kilogram. Limit. I can never become perfect at the level of body or the mind or intellect because it's meant to be incomplete. It is meant small, insignificant. I can never become significant. Regardless of how great I become at the level of body or mind, intellect and my, from the standard world, I am a great person. I know how great I am. I have to prove myself. I have to give myself the certificate, validation. The whole wrong course has been selected by the world. Here, Arjuna, action is meant for success, not the success that you say of winning the battle. That's not success. TasmatYudhyasvaBharat. Ye Bharata, therefore you fight the battle. But interestingly enough, Lord Krishna says, before you start fighting the battle, before you undertake that action, develop this conviction. Sukha dukkhe same krutva labha labho jaya jayo tato yuddha yujyasva nevam papam avapsyasi. Arjuna is a dharmatma, a punyatma, and therefore he is afraid of papa. Aho batam ahat papam kartum vivasita vayam. How sad it is, how unfortunate it is that we have now resolved to do this papa karma, this sinful action. Yad rajya sukhalobhena hantum swajanam udyataha. That we are determined to kill our swajana or near and dear. That will be great papa. For Arjuna, this action is papa karma. And yes, it will be papa. Rajya sukha lobhena. It is action of fighting the battle. Is motivated by Rajya Sukha Lobha, the greed of kingdom and pleasure. And kingdom can come only when there is Vijaya, victory. If the action is motivated by the greed of victory, of kingdom, of power, of pleasure, it would be a papa karma. Then it would be violent action. Then you're killing people. Either an action can be performed to protect the righteousness, protect the right, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam, for protecting the right, for overcoming the evil. Then it's the right action. But when the mind is motivated by greed, when the mind values victory, values power, values wealth, fame, pleasure, then any action that is performed would be a violent action. In case of Arjuna, so he came to the battlefield as motivated by greed, Rajya Sukha Lobhena, with the greed of kingdom and pleasure and victory. Now he recognized that is Papa Karma. Before coming to battle, he did not recognize that. He was ready to fight. Arjuna was ready to fight but by wrong motivation. That fight would have been violence, would have been Papa Karma, no doubt about that. And if this conflict did not arise in the mind of Arjuna, if the battle was fought with the greed of victory and kingdom, so karma phala asakti, attachment to the outcome, keeping outcome in the mind, keeping end in mind. When end becomes important, the means will be compromised. Therefore, if the motivation behind this battle is Rajya, Sukha, Lobha, the greed of kingdom, victory, pleasures, fame, or even heaven for that matter, even with dharmic action, understand, you may perform a ritual as specified by Vedas, which will qualify me for heaven, qualify me for progeny, qualify me for the material wealth. In that sense, it is a virtuous action, punya karma, because I am following the injunctions of Vedas. But that also will be called, from one standpoint, papa, path of darkness. Naite sudhi path janan yogi mukhyati kasyan. 8th chapter, Lord Krishna says there are these two paths. एकया याचनावृत्तिम अन्यया वर्तते पुनः. One is the path of light, one is the path of darkness. Very important to understand this. That even a person who is a virtuous person, a dharmic person, who follows the injunctions of scriptures and complies with whatever is stipulated in the Vedas or scriptures, outwardly he is a dharmic person, he is, and he will qualify for heaven, etc. Dhumo ratris tatha Krishna Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotihi Yogi Prapya Nivartate. This yogi, karma yogi, he acquires a lot of punya, virtue, because of these actions. He will get the result of the punya karma. Tatra Chandramasam Jyotihi Yogi Prapya Nivartate. He'll go to the world of Chandrama and enjoy the pleasures for a long time. Nivartate comes back to this world again. Kshine punye martalokam vishanti. One comes back to this world of mortals when the punya is exhausted. Punya in Swargaloka, Chandraloka is exhausted, comes back. Lord Krishna condemns this path. Gatagatam kama kama labhante. These people who are virtuous people by one definition. But kama kama, only driven by their desire, by their greed, by kama, lust for pleasures, and fame and name and power. Is also in a way is called papa karma, meaning that even that virtuous action will be called a violent action. Violence is subtle violence, but there is violence nevertheless. Arjuna, you want to be a non-violent person, which is understandable. Understand what is violence and what is non-violence. A karma does not become violence because of the form. Does not become non-violent because of a form. A surgeon who puts the knife in the stomach of a patient and apparently brings about a lot of injury, that action is not judged violent from its form. The spirit is to cure the patient. And a criminal also may insert a knife in the stomach of a person. Outwardly, the actions may appear similar, but the intentions are totally different. So, not only is an action to be judged from the form, but we also have to take into account the intention behind the action. That does not mean that we do not give importance to form. My good intention may not justify hurting other people, but intention is very important. So Arjuna, first work on your intention. Tato yudhyasva. Having resolved in your mind, having ascertained this, developing this conviction, first develop that conviction. First resolve this in your mind. Tato yudhyasva. And then may you engage in this act of battle. Meaning that even this action of fighting the battle also can be non-violent. How does Lord Krishna teach non-violence in this phase of the battle? Lord Krishna says, Sukha dukkhe same krutva labha labho jaya jayo tato yudhyasva. Tata thereafter yudhyasva. Then may you engage in this act of fighting the battle. Then, having completed something, krutva shows completeness of a verb. Sukha dukkhe same krutva. Same, having made equal. Sukha dukkhe, having made equal. Meaning, developing equanimity towards sukha and dukkha, pleasure and pain. What is meant by equanimity is, I am comfortable. If the outcome is sukha, pleasure, dukkha, pain, I am equally comfortable. Labha, labha, labha gain, alabha loss. Equanimity means I am comfortable with labha and alabha, with gain and loss. Jaya jayo, jaya victory, ajaya defeat. I am comfortable with victory and defeat. This is first should happen before performing action. Krutva. First of all, create this state of mind. Yogastha karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddha siddho samo bhutva. Yogastha kuru karmani. Perform action as abiding in yoga. What is yoga? Siddha siddho samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Samatvam, sameness of the mind, equanimity of the mind. Meaning that to me, siddhi and asiddhi. Siddhi, success. Asiddhi, failure. Gain and loss, victory and defeat, pleasure and pain, success and failure were equal to me. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Next class, rather. In my mind, I already resolved that they are equal to me. I am comfortable with them. I am willing to accept them gracefully. Graceful acceptance of siddhi and asiddhi. Siddha siddho samo bhutva. Again, krutva bhutva. Having become. Kuru karmani. Yogastha. Perform your action. Having first become equal to success and failure. It is that state of mind of equanimity that is called non-violence. Understand? It is the lack of equanimity, whether it is partiality for success and attachment for success, hatred for failure, attachment for victory, hatred for defeat. Whatever action is performed with that disposition of mind would be called a violent action. Sorry. So action is not judged by the form, judged by your state of mind. Violence and non-violence are first a state of mind, then they may be also a form, but first state of mind. So Lord Krishna asks Arjuna to first create in your mind state of non-violence. Arjuna was right. Yad rajya sukha lobena hantum svajanamudyataha. That we were determined and ready to kill our svajana, our near and dear ones, as motivated by greed of victory and kingdom and pleasure. Aho Bhatamahat, that was Papa, no doubt about that. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, before you perform the action, not just Yudhyasva, Tato Yuddhayudhyasva. Thereafter, may you engage in this battle. Naivam papam avapsasi. You will not gain sin. Even after performing the apparently violent action, injurious action, still you will not gain papa or sin. If this is a disposition of your mind. So, TasmatYudhyasvaBharat. Yudhyasva. Fight the battle. Lord Krishna also tells him how to fight the battle. We'll continue. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeri Murti Bhena Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari